Last time you commented a lot on the peaceful assembly bill. You say that there's not much freedom. You have to meet the police to get permission or everything. What are your actual stand after meeting the Inspector General of Police recently or today?
Well, the police do not make law. I think that's the job of parliamentarians, and so the police's job is to interpret it and implement it. And to the extent that the law itself is a problem, to be honest, and if you look at it from the international perspective and look at it from the international human rights standards, it has some weaknesses. The law unfortunately, is not crafted with the intention of facilitating assembly, but rather than control, but more to control them. And that's a fundamental issue for me, and I think for the entire United Nations system, which is trying to promote this right, and which is part of the international human rights law. So in that sense, it was a bit of a disappointment that the law passed as it is. But that said, I think there's always room for change and amendments, and I think that there's a room for that dialogue to push forward, to have some amendments to the law, so to make it fit into international norms and international standards.
Specifically, which part of the act that makes you reach such a conclusion?
Well, there are many parts of it. For example, the idea that there's a 10 days of notification. I think what international good practice and norms are right now is that you need to notify the authorities, but that notification is not meant so you can get a permit, but so that the police and the authorities can prepare themselves. Now, once that happens, then the idea is to facilitate you as you march or as you protest. And rallies, by the way, and the Freedom Assembly is not just staying in one place and having a rally. It's not just speeches. You can walk. Protest marches are part. Absolutely, but I think in this law there's a prohibition against marching, which is again against international norms. So there's many things like that, and then also seems to be the practice now is that people then are being summoned after rallies to come and explain why they didn't ask for 10 days permission, why they didn't, and that's not how you're supposed to do it. I mean, the role of the police is to facilitate you, not to control you. The role of any peaceful assemblies act should be to give you rights as a citizen and regulate them, rather than to control you so you can exercise that right in a certain manner. It's not supposed to derogate, it's supposed to facilitate. And I've said this in public many times. Peaceful assemblies are sometimes meant to disrupt the normal day. They are meant to do so. Yes. And that's fine, because it's part of the processes of democratic growth and understanding. But if it's going to happen, if that's going to happen, then the job of the authorities is to facilitate that, to have as minimum disruption as possible, rather than say you cannot disrupt traffic. Human beings have as much right to protest and take over the streets as the police, as traffic has to be on the streets. It's a dual, of course, and of course, but of course, if it's a nuisance, it's a way of dealing with it. When it's a nuisance, but if hundreds of thousands of people come out, this means there's a significant issue that needs to be addressed, and that's really. And you see, one of the things that I've been trying to tell governments since I became Special Rapporteur is that the right to peaceful assembly is necessary to respect the right to peaceful assembly, because it provides a vent for the frustrations, a peaceful vent for people who are frustrated, and provides a way really for the state to also understand some of the dynamics going on, and then hopefully they can engage in a constructive, peaceful dialogue to address those concerns. When you clamp down and the first instinct is say no, 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 then you're actually exacerbating tensions that are in a society. And I can tell you there's not a single country in the world where there are no tensions. Every country. So it's the job of the state to allow people and to give and facilitate people to vent these things. So better vent them openly and publicly and peacefully than not. There's not a single country, no single country that is uniform. There's one viewpoint, that's one ethnic group, one religion. Not a single country in the world. I mean, even Somalia, which I'll give you as a country which has got one ethnic group, one religion, is subdivided into clans. So one history. So there's not a single country you'll find anywhere that doesn't have that diversity. So it's the role of the state to manage that diversity. But again, history has shown us that if you try and manage that diversity by putting a lid on it, you're courting trouble. And that's clear in history. It's not rocket science. That the way to manage the diversity is to create spaces where it can be dealt with, it can be expressed and dealt with in a civilized manner. Now, this country, Malaysia, has been independent for 55 years. It's done phenomenally well in economic development. There's no doubt about that. I think no one can ever take that away from Malaysia. And so it's at a point where I think it rather than clamping down, its instincts ought to be, how do we deal with this? And actually you find most human beings, once they have a space to articulate and they can see that there is a dialogue going on, most people are quite happy to have no confrontation. It's not, you don't know, of course sometimes we come out to protest in favor of something, something useful like breast cancer, we can come out and normally those, you find those happening. But the protests that are often political, if you wish, because people are feeling something, and so you shouldn't stop them. It's like the press freedom. If you don't allow the media space, it'll go underground, and when it goes underground, you don't know what's going to be said. If I don't like what you're doing, I should give you your say. Come out, protest, say your rally, and then 3 days later I can have mine. If I can have 1 million people and you had 500,000, clearly my view has got more significance. But I shouldn't stop you because I don't like what you're saying. See, freedom of association and assembly isn't about the content. It's about the process. So we don't have to like what you're saying, but I'll defend your right to say it and express it and associate to the core. That's your business, as long as it's peaceful and within the confines of international standards. So if I don't like it and I feel I'm the majority, let me organize mine. And I think that's what you find, for example, what happened in Russia before the elections, that there were these protests in Russia that were seemingly anti the ruling party, and the ruling party organized their own, and so people can see and figure out where to go. That's how you work on these things. I mean, if you remember again, if you look back if you go backwards to the war against Iraq, the British population came out in numbers. The pro-Iraqi war people came out, and people can see. So absolutely, you don't have to agree. So that's the key issue. I think the key issue we have to go with this is tolerance. That the more tolerant we are within society, the smoother it is for everybody. And that's what we really want to have in this world, rather than having tension. Because once you close down, when you clamp down, it inevitably raises tensions. And that's not an issue for Asia, it's not an issue for Europe, not an issue for America or Latin America or Africa. This is a constant in humankind, that we get along better when we can talk and dialogue. We don't have to agree. In fact, it'll be dangerous if we all agree. Very, very dangerous. It's important to have differences because we're different people. We don't all think alike. We're not all born alike. That's fine.